We fixin' to make this town real smoking.
Today we are going to be taking a deep dive into the art of Tekken. For those of you who don't know, this is a big book, like 200, 300 page book on everything you need to know, you should know about Tekken. This book released around season 2 of Tekken 7, so that's kind of all the knowledge it has. Everything from Tekken 1 all the way up to season 2 of Tekken 7. And there's a lot in here. Stuff about story, stuff about characters, stuff about past Tekken games, success, failure, Harada. They talk about it all in this book. Hit that subscribe button. This is going to be a long journey of dissecting this book. And honestly, this should give us a better understanding. So once we get Tekken 8, we could better understand some of the decisions that they're making and they will make. So thank you, Vermilion Byte, for putting me on this path, and let's walk down it. The first thing that I want to read, this talks about the importance of arcades. And the reason why this is important is because Tekken 8 so far is not going to be on arcades. So arcade gamers who tended to be the fighting game faithful became beta testers of sorts. Tekken developers could discover glitches and gather data on in-game balance while continuing to improve the game before its console release. A quote here from Michael Murray says, "As Harada often says, it's a good way to both polish a game and recoup some of its development fees." And that pattern just stayed viable for Tekken a lot longer than other fighting game franchises. Now there's things already out there that hints at a beta coming. We had Michael Murray said a playable build will be coming, and then also you could download part of Tekken 8 on Xbox. There's another part in here where it was talking about taunting. I know taunting and key charging is a big part of Tekken, but Harada talks about what he originally expected out of the taunt mechanic. Things that might seem like they're meant to make your opponent angry, I choose to implement that way on purpose. He says, because it's not supposed to be, hey, let's get along and play together and have fun. You can see with the taunting and the key charging, Harada specifically put that in the game to get under people's skin. The next part here that I want to talk about, this focuses on Tekken's 4 destructible environment. And this is pretty crazy right here. This is pretty crazy because Tekken 8 is doing a type of destructible environment. Let's read it. They found the destructible environments to be a gimmick that distracted from the core gameplay. They also found that the more realistic movement of characters felt slower. This led to discovery that quick jabs were disproportionately strong, which meant some characters, those who emphasized defensive kicks, were disproportionately weak. This imbalance was more evident at the highest levels of competition. Almost every top player mentioned it, not necessarily because they wanted to, but because it was foolish not to. In publishing the series forward, parts of Tekken's foundation, like emphasis on balance, had been left behind. In this part of the book, they were really talking about some of the shortcomings of Tekken 4, how the destructible environments, obstacles, all of those things kind of like weighed the game down. And then also when you talk about the imbalance that the movement and the quick jabs and all that stuff had on the game. And that's why we see in like Tekken 7 and stuff like that, where the movement is different, the attacks is different. They kind of don't want the game to be dominated by jabbing. I remember watching a video like 3 years ago. JDCR said the most important attack in the whole entire game is the jab. And you can see that the developers kind of don't really like that kind of slow poking pace, and they're trying to tweak that, especially in Tekken 8. But the reason why the destructible environment part is important is because in Tekken 8, they're trying it again. We don't know how widespread it is, but we do know that some stages have bombs that blow up and they expose new parts of the stage, or they make the change and be more dynamic. Seeing that they put a lot of the blame on Tekken 4 shortcomings on destructible environments, and seeing that they're trying it again in Tekken 8 is kind of a head scratcher, but at the same time, maybe they figured it out. Maybe they understand what went wrong. Something that I really didn't take a screenshot of or focus on in this video was Tekken Tag Tournament 2. They talked about how Tekken Tag Tournament 2 was the worst selling Tekken game of all time, and they were talking about how it was kind of difficult to bounce back after that defeat. Tekken, since 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 6, the numbers on it was really good, and it kind of was growing and growing and growing until Tekken Tag Tournament 2, you had the whole entire game kind of crumble. And they really had to like figure out what went wrong and try to course correct in Tekken 7. It was really interesting to just see how some of the problems they took head on, but then also something too with this book, there was a lot of things that they ignored. The next thing that I want to talk about, this is specifically focused on Harada. And this one here gives so much context to who Harada is as a game developer, as a person. Despite his larger than life reputation, when you talk about Kitsu Harada, you'll find he's down to earth. In many interviews he gives to gaming publications, Harada is still very much a salesman. He frequently references sales numbers of a specific Tekken game and the series as a whole. He isn't shy about pointing out that Tekken has surpassed Street Fighter in terms of raw sales. I've seen so many tweets from Harada, the number has to be in the hundreds, probably the thousands. But there's rare occasions where someone will talk about player popularity, player percentages, or just anything that has to do with numbers, and then that's when that stubborn side of Harada will come out. With this small paragraph here, we can see that the reason why Harada is so strict with the numbers like that is because before he took over as producer of Tekken, that's what his job was. It makes sense why he goes on and on and on about numbers and percentages. This is why I like this book, because it gives context to a lot of the things that happens, but we may not understand why it happens. I have two more things that I want to read. One of them is Harada's reaction to the Tekken movie. You know the Tekken movie that everyone hates on, the live action movie where you have Jin and Katarina, or not Katarina, Christine is like dating each other? You have Harada's response to that, and then the other thing is Harada talking about the flaws of Tekken 7. He's sort of recapping what happened. In a tweet, Harada expressed his disdain. That Hollywood movie is terrible. We were not able to supervise that movie. It was a cruel contract. I'm not interested in that movie. The nicest thing Harada or any fan has had to say about the first live action film is that it's far better than the second, Tekken 2 Kazuya's Revenge, a sequel no one asked for or even fewer enjoyed. Here's the thing, right? Everyone hates the movie, including Harada. I really just think like, okay, this is just Hollywood doing the typical Hollywood thing. They go and try to get a property, a game, something that people are interested in. But then when they end up making a movie, they don't care nothing about the source material. They don't care nothing about the game, the fans, the nothing. They just make their own thing and they send it off and expect it to do well. We see a lot of this in recent days. You have the Witcher series that's burning in flames. You have the Halo series. You have so many video game franchises that came out like this year or even last year that is just horrible. And it seems like the Tekken movie was the oldest product of that. I just think that's interesting to note because I see a lot of people talking trash about it, and Harada gets blamed for it. They blame Harada for something he had no control over. Supervision is the word he uses. Tekken 7's flaws. The quote says, "There were a lot of problems in development of story mode. All members in charge of this part gathered a lot, discussed solutions, and confirmed processes again and again. Personally, what I remember most was the last part of development. In order to catch up to the delay, I left most of the parts to Ikeda and worked on the script from morning till late for 2 weeks. Because of its scenario delay, the development time for story mode was hugely reduced. Because of that, the quantity of scenario was reduced and some parts of the movie were cut. With pictures based on planned movie parts put in their place, additional stories planned during the development term were given up. This is the regret I have most." And basically what this paragraph is talking about is the way the developers nitpick and critique their own game. We, the community, have so many critiques and nitpicks about Tekken 7, we could write our own book. But they themselves, they see the flaws and they want to course correct it. They want to fix it. This is why I have a lot of faith in Tekken 8, because they're not dumb. You know, they know what happened. We know what happened, but they're going to try and fix it. And you could just see with everything that we saw so far, you could see that they're trying to fix it. Bringing back legacy characters, enhancing the story, enhancing gameplay, visuals. Everything seems like they're trying to do the best that they can to make Tekken 8 everything that Tekken 7 could have been, should have been, would have been. Who knows? But that's it. That's everything I want to talk about in this first part of the book breakdown. In the second one, I think I'm going to talk about maybe the Mishima Zaibatsu, maybe some Mishimas, talk about their lore. And then after that, I will be touching on sort of the other characters of the roster. It's going to be a few more videos until we concluded this book. But I do want to say thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone for supporting the channel. Until then, I'll see you in the next one, and bye bye.